The real estate sector has always played a vital role in driving economic development in Nigeria, contributing to job creation, infrastructure development, urbanization, and overall economic growth. As one of the key sectors in the country, the real estate industry has a far-reaching impact on various aspects of the country's economy. It could also be viewed as the most advantageous long-term investment during inflationary times. Joining us in the studio is the President and Chairman of Council, Nigerian Institution of Estate Surveyors and Valuers, ESV Victor Adekunle Alunge. Good morning. It's good to have you join us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Now, let's even begin with the value of the real estate sector in the country as we speak. What is it like?
Thank you very much. As we speak, I think the value of real estate is projected to be around $2.26 trillion. And out of that, almost 2 trillion of it is actually in the residential sector. But the truth of the matter is we have struggled as a nation to know the value of our real estate stock. Globally, I think it is actually valued to be around, about 600 trillion US dollars. And that is about more than twice the total value of the stock market in the world. So real estate is actually the biggest single asset in the world. But in Nigeria, we have struggled. You have this projection that, in 2024, the value is going to be around 2.26 trillion US dollars.
Can we talk in terms of Naira so Nigerians can relate?
Yeah, the point actually is that it depends on, the Naira is now floated. So if it's 1,500 Naira to $1, then you just multiply that. I think it's going to be a lot of...
There's quite a lot of calculation.
A lot of calculation.
So why the struggle to know the value of the real estate sector?
Yeah, because we've never had a national policy to actually determine the value of our real estate asset. And I must give credit to the current government. That is now being, prepared by the Ministry of Finance Incorporated. So the National Real Estate, Asset Register is now being put in place. And that is actually key, because real estate is key to economic development, as we will see. It is actually the major driver of economic activities with multiplier effects, and infrastructure development, renewal, and so on. So it's important that we know the value of our real estate.
Right. So perhaps let's begin to look at how key this sector is to economic development and how it really drives the economy. Because if we are not breaking it down, then we do not really understand how we can exploit to our benefit.
Yeah. Now, in terms of economic development, what is real estate's contribution to it? Number one is job creation in terms of direct and indirect job creation, direct in terms of construction, indirect in terms of, services, supplies, and so on and so forth. Right. And I mean, look at a major construction site. You see the construction workers, doing their work. The suppliers come, and then even the food vendors, those, small traders, come around there. So you can see if we have multiple of that. So it's a big job creating sector. And the other thing actually is that the wealth effect. When you revalue, when your property value increases, it gives you that, good feel factor. And then what that means is that it encourages people to actually spend, on consumer spending and so on, because you have value in your real estate.
So with the economic situation now, how do you think people can spend that much for real estate when they said to be hunger in the land? Because it is said that the value of real estate increases. You want to buy a property today, possibly for 20 million. Tomorrow you can get there and they tell you, no, it's 30 million now. And so how do you expect the people to be able to meet up?
Yeah, I think one thing about price formation in real estate is it's basically based on the simple demand equation. Demand and supply equation. Okay. Demand and supply. So values don't just, overnight increase. If there is no demand, additional demand, it's law of economics. But let me also say that the increase in value of properties that we see now is probably as a result of the structural readjustment in our economic, activities. Okay. The floating of the naira, the withdrawal of subsidy, and so on and so forth. But the actual thing I want us to understand is that real estate has some major problems, okay, in terms of moving forward for development. And if you look at Nigeria economy, what are the problems that Nigeria economy is facing? Barriers to investment, difficulties in investing, attracting investment in this country. You're talking of inadequate infrastructure, barrier to trade. In real estate, our major problem is actually in the land administration system. Mm. I'm sure you are aware that the value of debt, capital in real estate is about $800 billion in Nigeria. What that means is that those are assets in the real estate sector that we are unable to actually bring, to the nation's mainstream economy for economic activities. Why are those properties dead? It's because they have no titles. Yeah. It will interest you that about 96% of properties in Nigeria have no title.
How come?
In Lagos, that is at the forefront of it. And Lagos state government, from, since, 1999, they have been trying, to actually title every property. But in Lagos, PwC research tells us that about 95% of properties are not titled.
Why not?
That is our land acquisition system. Mm. That is the Land Use Act challenge. And if you don't have title to your property, you cannot take it to the bank to actually raise capital, raise money from it, and use it for your business. In developed countries, that is what propels and that is what actually helps their economic activities. Mm. If you have property, even your own residence, your own house that you live in, if you have equity there, you can go to the bank and take part of it so that you can invest in your business. Mm-hmm. That's not the point. And then that has impact on the economic activities and the national productivity. But it's not so in Nigeria. So real estate has that huge potential. Look at what is real estate contribution to GDP at the moment. It's about 6%. That is still very, very, very low.
Mm. I want you to go back to this point. How do we get to the point of, or address that challenge that you just pointed out, titling of properties and all of it? Is it so difficult to achieve?
It's actually not difficult, but it boils down to, land in Nigeria, by virtue of 1978 Land Use Act, is under the authority of the state governors. Yes. And land administration is what, leads to land titling. Mm. It's part of it. Our land titling system is so bureaucratic, so disincentive to people, and so cumbersome and costly, right, that people don't even feel the need to go for it. Right. And it is unfortunate. We need to look at the processes, yes. And we have been, as Nigeria Institute of Estates Surveyors and Valuers, we have been at the forefront of talking to governors, talking to state governors. Let us simplify. Ages in Abuja is trying, okay, but the system can be simplified even better. Look at what we have. If you have a property and you want to actually title, you see, everybody wants CFO. Mm-hmm. The bank needs CFO. Before you can actually raise fund in the bank, you need CFO. Now, what is the process of getting CFO? You apply for it. How long does it take? What process do you go through? And at the end of the day, the governor has to sign it. It is so cumbersome, and the process is unbelievably lengthy.
How long does it take?
Well, in some cases, it will take years.
It depends on who you know.
Exactly. But Lagos State has actually started something novel that I think will help. That is the EGIS. And that is actually going to help. I pray that, you know, the good intention of government will actually be supported by those who will operate it. It's a good project, and I think it will help. And the whole idea is also to improve on the titling, because the major issue in real estate is the titling. So it is so disincentive. And
apart from that as well, there's also this discussion about the fact that we have several documentations to have when you have a property. Does this put a lull on the development of real estate?
Look, let us look at it this way. If you want to undertake a property development, what are those, you know, processes that you go through? You have so many agencies. For instance, in Lagos, you have so many agencies slapping you with, you know, charges. You have to go through the planning process. You have environmental days. You have, so all those things, if you put it together. In fact, there is a study that actually shows that taxes that you pay, you know, from those charges, when you want to carry out development, is almost about 35% of the cost. And that is actually ridiculous. And the good thing is, in developed countries, you know, in the United Kingdom, for instance, where I actually practiced for a very long time, you don't have all this multiplicity of charges.
How is it done there?
How it's done there, in fact, all your development, you do it online. You don't even need to see anybody.
Okay.
You apply online, and then it is assessed, and then you know, they get back to you, and then what you have to pay, you know, is sent to you, and then you pay. And there is no hidden, there is nothing like, you know, when you are in development, some other agencies will come and slap you. No, it's not done. Everything is done once.
So bringing in technology to, you know, simplifying the process is one of the things you're suggesting. And another major issue might be data.
Yeah. That's why I said the EGIS, for instance, that Lagos State government is embarking on, is actually going to help. It's a very, very, very good, you know, project that they're embarking on, and it's going to help in the land administration system of the state. And this tightening we're talking about, if it is actually implemented the way, you know, they have spelled it out, and, you know, it will help a great deal. So as an institution, we have the obligation to actually support them.
But there are concerns that have been raised by a number of persons, so with regards to this matter of the real estate, that there are no regulations. And so that is not checking the activities of certain persons, for instance, developers, people who just sell lands to people, and then at the end of the day, they realize that the land did not belong to the person who sold it. So all of these sharp practices, so they are not being checked. And that is also a major, major concern. It
is, actually. I don't want to accept that there is no regulation. For instance, my institution, the Nigerian Institution of Estate Surveyors and Valuers, is a body of real estate practitioners, consultants. And we have a regulatory body established by government and, you know, authorized by the Act of Parliament to actually regulate the activity. How much
enforcement are we getting?
No. In our sector, we are. But, you know, there is quackery in all sectors. And real estate being very easy for people to come in and go out. But let us understand one thing. Even in developed countries, in the United Kingdom, for instance, a carpenter can actually get up one day and says he wants to be an estate agent. But the difference there in those, system is that there is law, there is national law, you know, guiding how you register, how you operate, sanctions, what records you should keep, how you should relate with your clients, and so on and so forth. That's regulation. That's regulation, yes.
Right.
Yeah. So
do we have that?
Yeah. I think in Lagos State they have the Laceral, you know.
It's not just, we are looking at the generality of Nigeria as a whole. We have 36 states and a federal capital territory.
Yeah, but you know, Nigeria is a federal state.
Right.
It's a federation. So state governments, you know, is like the United States, for instance. So the state government can actually have their local law to regulate, you know, activities of real estate development. But one thing we need to understand is that when it comes to providing services, consultancy, there is a national law, whether it is in estate management, whether it is in architecture, whether it is in quantity surveying or land surveying or town planning. There is a national law. So the consultants there, you know, are to help government, you know, because the national law, it is our duty, it is in our interest as an institution to make sure that it succeeds. But how it is operated, how it is structured is a major challenge. So and that is why we are going to engage the Lagos State government.
This law, does it address the issue of land grabbers?
You see, land grabbing is, again, if you have a proper land administration system, land grabbing will actually be sorted out. Okay. It's about land administration. What is land grabbing? People turning up, you know, taking over land that doesn't belong to them and then selling it and then finding fake stuff. So if you have, because people need to be able to have access to information about prospective, intended transactions, you know. For instance, again, sorry, I keep talking about, you know, countries that we look up to. If I want to buy any property in London or in any part of the United Kingdom, all I need to do is to go to land registry. I pay a fee, maybe about £3 or £5, check it online. All the information, right from the beginning to the present, I will see it. Data. You know, so that's why I keep saying the EGIS in Lagos State is, because Lagos is the center when it comes to property transaction, property value. Lagos is the center. Lagos is where everybody wants to be. And what Lagos actually does is actually copied in other states. So that's why it is in our interest to make sure that Lagos, what they are doing, succeeds. And we would, as an institution, we will be there to help them.
Perhaps we need to talk about affordability.
Yeah.
He mentioned something at the beginning, talking about hunger and people, you know, buying property and all of that. And there are those who want to have property. But you see, it's just above their reach. I'm wondering if there will be that point where we have something affordable for the average Nigerian, what it will take to really achieve that.
Yeah. Affordability is relative. And I think government has a big role to play there.
How so?
Yeah, government has a big role to play. And first of all, in terms of employment, stability of employment.
Okay.
And secondly, in terms of providing incentive for private sector to actually go into real estate development. And again, which is also very, very important in terms of financing. Because it is only in Nigeria that people go out to buy property and pay cash outright. That is not sustainable. If that system is maintained, affordability will continue to be an illusion.
But those in the business accept it.
What? Of course.
I mean, so you also are encouraging those who want to pay outright.
Look, how? I have properties to sell.
Right.
I advertised it. Some people came and said, look, I want to buy it. Okay. How are you paying? Oh, I have my savings. I have my money in the bank. Okay. Transfer it. They pay. That's not my business. That's not a problem.
No, it's part of the problem. If you begin to dissuade persons to say, you know what, let's put a process in place.
You mean I will be out, you know, trying to sell property. Somebody will come and wants to buy, and I will say, no, I don't want. Because you mentioned
it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. The government has to do, and again, the current federal government has actually taken the right step in addressing that, and that is actually making sure that we have a proper mortgage system in the nation, robust one. That is it. You see, when people have stable employment, you know, and you have a proper financing system for, you know, real estate acquisition, especially for the people we are talking about, then it makes life easy. All that is required is, instead of 100% capital for what you want to buy, maybe about 15%. And that 15%, you can actually raise it from your NHF contribution. And then the bank will provide.
That's another issue. How many people can access the NHF?
Look, I think it is mandatory. It is a
definitely it is mandatory.
Yes,
but access to it.
You can access it
without bottlenecks.
It's a Herculean task.
Well, you see, accessing it. You see, I think it is. I don't think it is difficult to access it, but the Federal Mortgage Bank will also, through the secondary mortgage, primary mortgage institution, will also want to make sure that you want to access this money. Are you sure, you know, you are going to utilize it for real estate? Because if you have contributed, say, 4 million naira to date, and you want to buy property of 10 million naira, Federal Mortgage Bank will want to be sure, or your primary mortgage institution will want to be sure that you have the counterpart 6 million to pay. So they will not release it, because releasing it means, you know, the original purpose is defeated. But when we have a proper mortgage system established by government, then you can have that access easily.
Don't we have a proper mortgage system?
We don't have.
Okay, why do you think so?
Because, okay, how many people can actually say, I've got a mortgage of 25, 20 years, you know, to pay, you know? Have you ever seen anybody that went to a bank or mortgage institution to get a loan to buy property?
So you're meaning the payment period should be extended further?
That is what is called mortgage.
All right.
Not 5 years, 2 years, 3 years mortgage.
But so mortgage, the Federal Mortgage Bank has about 20 years.
No, Federal Mortgage Bank don't even give loans to individuals.
That's it.
They are not established to do that.
Anyway.
So that's why we have the primary mortgage institutions, all these savings and loans and so on. They are supposed to be...
Our time is up, unfortunately. But we must thank you, President and Chairman of Council, Nigerian Institution of Estate Surveyors and Valuers, ESV, Victor Adekunle Alunge. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Right.
You guys are doing a great job.
Thank you. Right.